Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. So this time it's going to be a little bit different and we're going to be going over the brand new Nissan Z Proto that just came out. Now, I think the car looks absolutely amazing and it is just a prototype right now, but it's very similar that we can expect to see on the actual production model. Now, the car does take a lot of stylistic cues from the older Zs. If you look at the hood, you can definitely see that it has like the 350 style hood, and then the headlights look like they came out of the 240. The headlights represent what Nissan says is going to be a modern version of what the 240 would have had. Because if you look at it, you can actually see a split in the headlight. So if we look like right here, we can actually see a split. So it's kind of like a rounded off oval shape, but because of the split, it definitely takes a lot of stylistic cues from the older Z. So it's actually the same width as the current Z, but it is 5.5 inches longer. A lot of people aren't too fond with the front grille, and keep in mind this is just a prototype, so it could definitely change in the future, but when we get to the production model, I think it's going to look very similar to what it is right now. And the designers at Nissan actually said that the reason they have it like this is because with the body lines of the car, the rear body lines sit lower in the rear than the front. So when it kind of comes to the front end, it kind of gives it like a sharp nose, and I think it looks really cool. I definitely do think the grille will be adjusted for the production model, but as of now, it has a really aggressive look and it's starting to grow on me. Looking at the silhouette of the car, you can actually see that the rear end drops lower than the front and it has a very long front nose. So it's definitely a very 240-esque looking car and I think it looks amazing. But the whole idea from the engineers was they wanted to really preserve the value of the older car. So the older Zs and pretty much every generation of Z is in this car. You can actually definitely see some stylistic cues from those cars put into this car, which I think is awesome. Now, if you look at the overall silhouette, it's definitely a 240, and then the actual kind of the way the rear end slopes down, that's also from the 240. But I think the front end is more 350, and then honestly, I see a little bit of Aston Martin in there too, but it's definitely all from the Z cars. It just definitely looks like a bit like an Aston Martin, which I think is a good thing because we're getting some of these design cues from these much more high-end cars and they're bringing them down into these cars. And keep in mind, even stuff like the brakes on these cars, I've heard they're from the GTR. I don't know if it's confirmed, but they're definitely a really big brake on the car. And that's just kind of cooler that, you know, the older Z didn't come with stuff like this, but now with the new Z, we're getting brakes that are pretty much off of the GTR, which is awesome. If this is the base model of the car, I think it's gonna be really nice because it has a really good starting point. So the big brakes on the car, the 19-inch wheels, I think they look really nice and fit the car. And if this is the base model, I can't even imagine what a Nismo version would look like. So I think a Nismo version would probably end up just being like the new front bumper, side skirts, a rear bumper, and maybe like a wing, and maybe some additional horsepower, and maybe some additional tweaks on the interior, but overall I think that would really polish up the car. So if this is the base model of the car, I think it's gonna be a really good starting point for enthusiasts, and I think everyone's gonna really enjoy it, and just a few mods is gonna really transform the look of the car. The interior on the car is quite nice, so it really is a very modern version because Nissan said they want to bring kind of homage to the older cars, but it is still a very modern car because obviously it's going to be a brand new car. So the interior is very nice. It has a digital display for all the gauges and then also has a tripod setup, so I think it's really cool. And then also it does have a manual transmission, which I think everyone's going to love. And they are saying that they're going to be working on a automatic transmission. Now, is it going to be a dual clutch? We really don't know. I would hope it's going to be a dual clutch because that's probably the one I would want to get. Not saying I would buy this car, but if I were to, I think it'd definitely be for the dual clutch because I just like automatics. But I do think it's awesome that Nissan's giving us a manual transmission for this car because you have to think a lot of cars nowadays aren't coming with these manual transmissions and a lot of cars are going electric, and Nissan even said that they understand that cars are going electric in the future and they're trying to bring this car in kind of to bring Nissan back and kind of get the heritage going again and really just take homage to the older cars without making them feel old. So they're definitely still modern, but they still have that nice heritage to them. As far as the name of the car, I can imagine that it's probably going to be a Fairlady Z, but depending on the horsepower output, it could be a 400Z. Who knows? It could even be like a 450Z, 300Z. I mean, it really just depends on what the stock power output is, but I would take a good guess and say just going to be a new Fairlady Z because that would kind of take it back to the older car. And I think it would just be a really good throwback to the car and just kind of make it a modern version of the Fairlady Z. I think my favorite part about the car is that Nissan's taking a traditional Z style and then making it a very modern car. Now the car just looks absolutely amazing in my opinion. I think there's definitely a few things they can adjust like the front bumper, but overall I think it's a very perfect representation of what would be the modern Z. And that's really what it's supposed to be. I mean, it's just a modern Z. So here's the thing, the car looks a lot like what we can expect to see with the final production model. Now, if you look at other cars like the Mark V Supra, the FT1 concept and the actual production model of the Supra are completely different. They really don't look that much similar. And I think with this car, we're definitely going to expect a very similar car. My guess would be it's probably just going to get a different front bumper and maybe a couple tweaks. And that's really going to be it for the rest of the car. I mean, I think it's going to look pretty much how it is right now, just a little different. But I mean, even if you look at the interior of the car, a lot of concept cars don't even come with the interior done. They usually just have like black windows just to cover it up. But this car actually has the interior pretty much done, and it doesn't look too futuristic. Like, it definitely looks like this is something that could be a final production model. So I think we're definitely going to see that interior. And one of my favorite things about the interior is actually all of the materials they use. So from this model, this yellow, I would assume probably going to be like a launch edition model. It does have Alcantara on the interior and then the yellow stitching, but I could still imagine that if they do like a limited or a higher trim model of this car, we're definitely going to see some Alcantara and leather. And maybe even when the Nismo comes out, we can see some Nismo seats in the car, which is going to look amazing. So what do you think of the new Nissan Z Proto? I think it looks absolutely amazing, and with a twin turbo V6 engine and a manual transmission, it just seems like a perfect combination, and we can only imagine it's going to be rear-wheel drive, so it's going to be a super fun car. And I think with the interior quality and just everything that we can see from the pictures, it's going to be a really fun car. And especially with 400 horsepower as what we can assume is going to have around there, it's going to be a really good starting point for everyone to modify and get some high horsepower numbers out of it. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, let me know what you think of this new style, because this is my first time doing a video like this and I really enjoyed it, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy it as well. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, because we'll see you in the next one.